So what's up, guys? Welcome to the Wedding Pros Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about pricing and packaging for your market.
So if you're a wedding creative, photo, video professional, this is like, let's start with something controversial, right? Because I think it's really funny. Every single year, one of these things comes out, and every year it is met with outrage. People are furious about these, like the Knot, the Wedding Wire. They release these pricing guides for brides, right? And then people call them up. They call up the person, you know, the wedding professional, the wedding creative, and they say, "Oh, well, my budget is this." And like, wedding professionals swear that the reason the person is telling them that their budget is $1,800, $2,000, $2,500, whatever they think is cheap, is because of this article. So let's talk about Wedding Wire released last year, and this is a national average. They also, if you want to go to this tool, it's weddingwire.com/cost/ I think wedding videographer or...
Everyone's going to remember this at home.
Yeah, or wedding photographer. Anyway, if you go to /cost on Wedding Wire, you can get all these cost things, and they get them from surveys from their couples. So if you think that they're just like inventing them, they're not inventing them.
Yeah. No, I think they're just trying to screw every video.
They're just trying to screw you. Like, how does that benefit Wedding Wire and the Knot if you don't make money?
By the way, I want to thank Betsy from the Knot for stopping by and giving us this fancy notebook to write down our notes on this morning.
We are not sponsored by the Knot yet.
Yes, but we could be. See how nice the blue complements the background on YouTube.
So full disclosure, we advertise on the Wedding Wire and the Knot.
They're both owned by the same company now, I guess.
Yeah, we advertise on both of them.
Bad.
We like, as for our company, by the way, we think they work fine. I don't have a problem with them.
Yeah, we'll do something else on the benefits sometime in the future.
Anyway, they did these surveys. And every year, wedding creatives freak out, right? Because it says, like, wedding photographer, the average photography cost that a couple pays is $2,000. And they say the upper range is $4,500, low range $323 or less. Like, no given.
They're trying to destroy our business. No.
That's it.
No.
And then for wedding videography, they say the average cost is $1,700, the upper range is $3,810, and the lower range is $500 or less. You know, at least we have a lower floor as photographers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or a higher floor.
And actually, in the research that I did, it was even lower in the Boston area. The average cost, I think, was like $1,300 or something for the average wedding. So.
Yeah. So here's the deal. This is not just my opinion. This is based on data. This is also based on running a wedding business. I don't think these numbers are actually too far off.
Me neither.
I think now they're factoring in a lot of information. And so we're going to talk about pricing today, but before we talk about pricing, we're going to talk about, this is how we arrive at a lot of our prices using data and not just our own personal opinion of how good we are. And I think, like, that's a big weakness, I think, in wedding creatives, right? Is like, we associate our product with ourselves and we personalize it and our egos get in the way and we're comparing ourselves to this guy and we're like, I'm as good as him, I should be able to charge as much as him, and like stuff that's really not relevant to your business and what you're trying to do. But the real thing is like, you got to be realistic and look at the numbers. So I think these numbers are correct.
Yeah,
at least close. I don't think they might be a little low, but I don't think they're like ridiculously low.
Yeah, and a lot of times people will complain about, well, how do they get these numbers? How they don't have access to my charts or whatever, my Google Docs. How do they know? And there's a lot of calling into question the accuracy of it. I agree, but I think it's pretty accurate myself. So I think the first thing that I think we should do is really defining the market, so the average, cost of the different types of weddings that are out there.
Yeah, the average cost of a wedding is the first thing you got to look at, right?
And what percent share of the market each of those categories kind of falls into.
When we look at our business, we don't really think we're going to pick up more than like 10% of the wedding day budget, max, like on the top end, like as a videographer, like.
I think it's closer to 5%.
Yes,
pretty
I think it's
consistently.
usually lower, or a lot lower. And so I would just say use that as a good guideline if you're looking at your market and where you sit and saying like, okay, wherever your pricing is, you're probably going to be max 10%, but more likely 5% of the total budget. So say you want it to be, if you want your average price to be $4,000, you're going to pretty much only be shooting $80,000 weddings.
Yep.
And so we're going to do a little market kind of analysis and talk about overall market and how many weddings there are. And this is why I think these numbers are correct, Jared.
Yep.
Because when I look at it, it's like 60-70% of the market is below $30,000, right?
Yep.
So of course, most of these weddings are going to, like, if people are paying $20,000 for their wedding, they're probably going to pay max $2,000 for a videographer.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of people. And like, before we get into it, I'll let you speak for yourself, but I don't think anybody needs to really I don't like the term bottom feeder or any of that. Like, you can't lowball your way to the top. It's like, you got to figure out where in the market you fit and who you want to serve. If 60% of the potential customers out there can't afford a $4,000 photographer, how are you a bottom feeder?
Yeah.
You're just serving a customer. You're providing a service. So like, if you're sitting here and you're listening and you're new, or maybe you've been doing it a while, and you feel like less than because you're like, I'm charging $1,500, I'm doing well, but I don't want to be a bottom feeder. It's like, you're serving a customer base. Just like there are customers who want to spend $10,000 on a wedding videographer. Not many, but they exist. There are customers that want to spend $1,500.
Yep.
And like, we could just ignore it and no one under $30,000 could ever get a wedding film. Or, I know for me, like, if we had the time, I would love to have a brand that could do weddings for $1,500.
Yep.
There's a lot of good money in that, and there's a lot of people you could serve.
Yeah, so let's hop in. So this is kind of, I think, both of our opinions, but what we have kind of outlined as 4 different categories in the market. You have your low end, you have your mid range, your luxury, and your ultra luxury. So low end to me is probably $500 to $2,000.
That's the realm of Cousin Johnny.
Or Uncle Bob.
Yeah.
Uncle Bob is the guy that shows up.
Or I'm teasing a little, or like a student, a student videographer. He might be amazing actually, but he's getting started out. There's people like that. I suppose there could be someone out there running. I don't know how you can really run a business on a $500 shooting weddings, but hey, if you're able to do it, great. Yeah.
I think people that are spending $500 are probably spending 10 to 20 grand on a total wedding. People that are spending closer to $2,000 are, a little bit higher in that echelon. I think you're looking at probably like maybe a $30,000 video or $30,000 wedding. Our average, so our average in New England, average spend, there's 27,000 weddings, and the average spend was $36,500
so
for a
just
wedding.
Nationally speaking, our market is good.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
we're in a good market.
Yep.
We're in a good market.
This is for Boston, Cambridge, and Newton area. So a little bit higher. I think we're like the third average in the country, third highest in the country. But then I have your mid range coming in $2,000 to $5,000. Your luxury is more $5,000 to $10,000, and then your ultra luxury, which is like $10,000 to. I heard the other day I was at a wedding, and a photographer told me about a videography company out of Spain that was charging someone in his family $50,000 for a wedding film. And I was like, haven't even heard of Ray Roman charging that much. $50,000 for a wedding film. So that takes the cake. If you're out there listening,
Well,
to
his
this,
goal is to
which
work
you will
one
be.
wedding a year.
Congratulations.
So.
Yeah. So those are the kind of different categories. So when we started looking at our personal market research, we realized that, like you said, about 65% of couples out there are paying less than $20,000 on
For
their
their
wedding.
total wedding, guys.
Total wedding. Yep.
That's not just like
It's
just
30%
take like a
under
sobering
10.
moment, creative, if you're a photographer or whatever, and just think about that.
Yep.
Like how much less opportunity you have, the higher your prices are.
Yep. Yep.
And so like, and I don't have a problem, by the way, if like we're all about going for whatever you think you can go for, but it's just be realistic. Be like, before we make jumps and change our prices, and be thoughtful at like what you're really doing.
Yep.
You're basically entering into the shallow end of the pool where the big sharks are.
Yep, definitely. And so you're pretty much competing for 35% of the business as soon as you go over $2,000. So that
Over
just leaves
2,000. Like,
yes.
I've literally, like, when I see people ranting and raving about this, they're like, the average price is $3,500. How many weddings are? Let's say like that's a $70,000 wedding, right? Based on
what the
equation.
percentage?
Yeah, 5% of a $70,000 wedding. How many $70,000 weddings are there?
Between 50,000 and 100,000. It looks
What's
like
percentage?
3.8.
That's like 5% of the weddings nationally.
Yeah.
Are going to pay $5,000 for a videographer. Maybe a little more. Like I said, somebody might be willing to flex and do 10%.
Yep.
I think you could be working anywhere from $45,000 to $100,000 weddings at $5,000.
Yep.
You know, and so maybe that pushes you. You know, you can work in 15% of the total weddings available to you.
Yeah.
That is not a lot
Yep.
of opportunities, and so be realistic about that. If you're shooting 30 weddings a year at $5,000, you're doing great. Good job, because you're competing, you have a great product, and you're competing for a very small amount of weddings.
Yep. That's it. And I think a big part of this specific podcast is hopefully to encourage people who are just starting out that, look, like, this industry is great. There's a place for you when you're just starting out, and even if you wanted to make this, and I think that's a big part of the podcast too, is there's an argument that you can make a complete business model based on what your goals are on that 65% charging, or that are spending less than 20 grand.
Every time you say the word 65%, I just think about, I've said it to you privately before, like, oh, can we make a $1,500 product? Can we find a way to do it? Like, there's so many weddings.
Yeah.
It's so many weddings. There's so many people looking for that.
Yep.
And like, you have to do volume, but you could shoot 500 weddings.
Yep.
At that price.
Yep.
Now,
no one is competing there, really.
everybody who's good wants to get out of the market too.
Yep.
So
now, I think there are certain questions. So this is kind of the next part.
I'm not, by the way, just saying that's my fantasy or dream to shoot. I'm just saying I like money.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur. It's a great opportunity. If anyone else heard that number and was like, bing, bing, and they just money signs in their eyes, but also just thought about how much you'd have to work, but whatever, like, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. But, and then, you know, that's why there are editing houses in Croatia and you know, Romania that are charging
totally
$100 for a wedding film. There's a market there. There are people out there doing it.
I promise you, if every weekend I went into a Facebook group and said, hey, who wants to shoot a wedding next week? I can find a guy who would be willing to do it.
Yep.
You know, like, there are more people looking for opportunities to shoot weddings and get in the job. We haven't capped it out. There's a ton of opportunity. And this is what I will say to everybody. The core of what we're going to talk about today is arriving at this idea that you have a path forward, right? There's a path forward. If you're struggling with your booking, now the path forward might be lowering your prices. And you might have to consider doing that, but you're not going to go out of business. You can stay in a business, and if you're starting, you can grow your business. We're on the top end in our pricing. We're on the higher end of pricing for most couples with our business, and we're happy here. We do well. We do.
You think we're on the higher end?
The high end is $3,800. We're on the high end.
Yeah, it's pretty much bordering luxury.
We're shooting.
I think we're middle tier, bordering luxury.
We shoot, well, statistically, we're upper tier. We shoot in the 15% of the weddings. Mm-hmm. Top 10% in the nation.
Sure.
You know, and so that's our business. We have a product, I think, that can sustain that, and we can talk about that another time. It's actually, I don't know, being good. But like, there's a lot of opportunity out there, and if you're sitting there trying to go, how do I move forward? it's business. And the key of business is looking for opportunities and seizing them. And, obviously making money, staying in business. And like, so we want to kind of talk through what's a good path forward and how should you make a decision about what your pricing is and really, what are you trying to make?
Yeah, sure. So I think the question that you should be asking, or the question I think that a lot of people out there ask themselves are, one, what kind of art do I want to make? What's satisfying to me? What workspace would make me happy? What do I want others to think about me? I think is a lot of question. Maybe you don't ask on Facebook, but it's, I think, a thing that a lot of videographers out there think, and photographers think about themselves. What are other creatives going to think about me? How much money do I want to make? I think should be a big question you're asking.
I personally think, because that's a finite thing, right? Like, what do I want to make? Every year it could change.
Yep.
But every year you're like, I think that's one of the first things you should be thinking about.
Yep.
Even before you think about what you want to make. I think the asking question, what can I make? Like, well, I want to make whatever, but do I know how? Am I good? Who knows? But like, I do think overall, like, how much money do I want to make is, it seems like
I wanted to save the best for
question.
last. Yeah. Well, actually, the last one is, how much or little do I want to work? So
that's everyone's favorite.
Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily think like, do you want to be a hard worker or do you want to be lazy? But
no.
For a lot of people, especially in those bottom tiers, weekend warriors, people that are out there, holler at you. You're working your butt off during the week, and then you work your butt off on the weekends, and you might not have all the time in the world to be able to, shoot 100 weddings.
I think it's funny how it's become like photography and videography, this idea of celebrity. It's become like this celebrity job, like it's this cool job, and it's really a blue collar job.
Yeah.
Very few of us can like do it at some luxury level.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that are blue collar people who are out there, salt of the earth, grinding.
Silent majority, man.
Yeah, and they are just grinding away every weekend, just doing the best that they can. And like he said, more power to you guys, because some of those people become the elite people, by the way. But like I always tell this story. I remember I met a guy a couple years ago, and like, you ever like show up at a wedding, you're like, this place, and then you're like, this is just not a nice venue, and the weather sucks, and you're just thinking. And then I meet the photographer, and I'm like, oh, this guy is gonna be horrible to work with. Okay, so I hung out with him a little bit, and I'm like, oh, this guy's wicked nice.
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, oh, actually, this guy's awesome. I love working with this guy. He's wicked nice. But I was right. Like he was what you would consider low end. He didn't dress nice. He didn't know how to pose people the right way. And so I'm just thinking like, I wonder what this guy's deal. So I go to him. I'm like, how's your year or whatever? And I was talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I shoot like 50, 60 weddings a year. Maybe more. And then he was like, but this year I'm doing like 100. And he's like, maybe charges like, I think like $1,800.
Yep.
The guy, but he made like $200,000.
Yep.
Like grinding. And I'm like, his work is fine. It's fine. The couple was probably psyched. They probably loved it. He's wicked nice. He's making like upper echelon in the country salary.
Yep.
To grind away. And so like, for those of you that like that last question Jared asked, where it's like, how much do you want to work? Working, let's say you shot 60 weddings and it took you 2 days to edit all of them. Mm-hmm. You're working 180 days a year. You're still working less than the average person.
Baseball schedule.
Yeah, like, and you are making a ton of money. And so like, I think we need to reorient ourselves in the creative world to like not be thinking like, I have to make $250 an hour. I need to be making $6,000 at a wedding. Like I said, there's a lot of people doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But you're not like some crappy scrub if you're pulling in $120,000 a year to shoot 50 weddings.
Yep.
That's a great living.
Yep.
Great providing for your family. And there's a lot of opportunity for that. And so like, all in all, if you can ask those questions about your business, about especially the last two, which is how much do I want to make and how often do I want to work? And you're like, if you are willing to work a lot, you can make a ton of money with that fat part of the market. really provide for your family if you keep your costs low, and you can do really well for yourself.
So tell me why you think, I mean, we kind of went into it a little bit, but tell me why you think a majority don't want to take advantage of that lower market.
Because they think it makes them look less cool, and their egos are ridiculous. Like, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of like the workshop world has been built on telling people that by raising your prices, you are somehow guaranteed to get paid. And like, that's the way forward. Raise your price, work more, or get
Make
paid more,
shoot less.
And like, for some people, that's exactly what they need to hear and what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Their market will allow for it. Their quality will allow for it. Like, if I was coaching someone, there are people, and we've done this before. We've coached people and we've changed their business, where we said, you're charging too little.
Yeah.
Your personality, your work, you could demand more because of, I'm looking at your stuff. There are people, and I don't say this, if you suck, I'm not going to go tell you that you suck. I'll tell Jared that you suck. But like, if you're shooting and I look at your work and I'm like, this guy sucks, he can't shoot. And then you tell me it's $1,500, I'm like, oh, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's fine then.
Yeah.
If he wants to charge $6,000 for that, I'm going to laugh in his face. Now, what do you care what I think?
Yeah. The question is, what does the bride think?
What does the bride think?
Yeah.
And are they willing to pay for it? And
Yep.
it's like, if you want to become a better shooter so you can get to that upper echelon, we can have a conversation about that. But
Yeah.
I've never met a shooter who is willing to both admit that they're bad and that their product is mediocre and their branding sucks in order to raise their prices and get better.
Yep.
Like, I'm sure they exist. That's not entirely true, but I know they exist. But I think that's really what ego will get in the way of your success, and it will force you to do things to make other people happy who are not going to give you a buck.
Yep. Well, and I have a couple fears with the way that the culture, I think, in wedding videography community
This is a family
talks
talk,
about
guys.
talks about this. My first fear, I guess, is the people that are charging $5,000, saying, oh, these people are ruining the market and blah 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 blah.
I hate that.
And not understanding that there is they're just going for a total different
Different market.
total different client, totally fine, but there is a market there. There's a market there. It's an ecosystem.
And you're not going to go serve them at $5,000. You're not going to be even able to.
And I think what a lot of people who are charging in that upper echelon might not realize is that if a recession hits, people are still going to pay $2,000 for a wedding video. They might not pay $10,000 for a wedding video. The upper echelon that you're trying to get to, you're just ruined by
thinner
whatever people on Wall Street, decide for your future. So, people
Even if they
in that
just
lower
decide
tier,
like, this isn't a cool looking wedding anymore. We don't like the way it looks.
yeah, McDonald's doesn't suffer through recessions as much as steakhouses do. So, we always compare our, company to other companies out there, car companies to, fast food companies or restaurants. And it's just true. It's just true. At the end of the day, the majority of a price point is going to do well through recessions. They're going to do well no matter what. And they make the most money. McDonald's makes the most money of any fast food restaurant, probably any restaurant at this point, right?
Probably.
So they're not super high end. They just appeal to most. So I think, it's multi-tiered.
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
opinion.
So I think if you can answer those questions though, like, and you,
let's dive in there.
You gotta believe in yourself. I think at the core. Before any of this, you have to have a strong belief in yourself and what you're able to do. So we'll talk about our business a little, because we had a journey, and like, hopefully this will help somebody too when they're building their business understand, like, now we didn't have a great plan, right? But
no, I don't think we had a good plan.
I don't know if it was made up as we went along.
I was gonna hop into these are what your goals should be figure out what's a year from now, figure out what's 2 years from now, and then a 5-year plan. But we never really had a plan. It would be super inauthentic.
I think, and like, I would say, like, if I had a coach that was me, I would have appreciated that.
Yeah.
Like, if there was someone who could show me how to do it, but we didn't know how. So when we started, like, looking back, we were very expensive. for our market. We went and looked historically at our market. Like when we started, it was the lowest average spend like in 10 years for our market.
Yeah, that's true.
So for that what brides were spending. So we were in like the middle of the recession.
Yeah.
And nobody was spending money, and we were charging like I think our average price was like $5,000
Yeah.
when we first started, maybe a little more.
Yeah, our average spend was probably 4,000 to 4,500.
But we were so we were like had this really like we did like the engagement kind of love story shoots that some people are doing. We would do like all these really detailed products, ton of production value. Spending a lot more time, bringing cranes, all kinds of idiotic stuff that I would never do now. And it took, I think we did like literally 5 weddings our first year. Mm-hmm. And then I think we did like 6 the next year.
Like 8.
6 or 8. And then I think it was like 14 and then like 20. And then suddenly
16,
we started
30. Then we
did
started
30. And then like, it was like a 5-year trajectory.
Yep.
To get where we wanted and build our name up and build our credibility up. And so, like, if you're starting and you have a similar path, I don't say this as a brag, but it's just true. We're shooting 120 a year now.
Yeah. We started doubling the amount of weddings that we're shooting every single year when we dropped our prices. We just did. When we realized that not everybody
We didn't
wants
actually drop
everything.
our prices, by the way. We reduced the products we were delivering.
Yes.
We didn't charge less. We did less.
And we charged less.
I think we charged the same per hour.
It is the same per hour, but our overall
didn't-
packages, like of what we provided, the cost went down on, and the amount of the number of weddings that we booked on that package went up, skyrocketed.
Yes, and we just
Because we realized not everyone wants everything. Most people just want a certain thing. They want a
Some
certain
people would call
edit.
it the a la carte model. So we thought about that, but basically we created a lower barrier entry for brides.
Yep.
We made it easier for more people to get on board, and we made sure that we didn't lose anything in the process.
Yep.
So we did lower our prices in a sense, but we didn't like lower our prices in a way that we
In an
lost.
hourly
We
rate.
didn't lose money.
Yep.
We gained money, not only because we were more efficient on the wedding day and we did less work, but it opened up a lot more opportunities. And it took a long time to get there.
Yep.
It took a long time to get there. And like, if that's you and you're doing this and you're grinding out a business, like, especially if you're willing to endure the slower trajectory of maybe being a little higher priced and you have the work that can sustain it, it might take you 3 years, might take you 2, might take you 1, who knows? But it's not an overnight thing.
Yep. I agree.
So let's get into what we were going to get into, which is
I think too, I don't know. I think talking about a la carte stuff as well.
a la carte pricing model is a good idea. So in general, we talked about 4 questions you need to ask yourselves
Yep.
about your marketing, about your business, and really about how much you want to work and how much you want to make. Actually, let's stop really. How much is too much for one person in terms of volume? What's your opinion on that? And when people kind of talk, work-life balance and all this stuff.
Sure. So before we hired Kyle to be our lead editor, and I was doing a majority of the editing and shooting 50 weddings myself. I think that was the line of where I was going a little bit crazy.
That was
Personally,
that was too much.
No life whatsoever. So I would say that was my breaking point of like, well, either, and I was also in the process pretty poor as well. It was a weird thing. It was a weird time where you were building a company. You probably weren't making a whole lot of money because it was just essentially we were paying for gear and all this stuff. And that was the breaking point for us, for me personally.
Yeah, I think I like to base it on just being a normal person.
Yeah.
Like you're not working too much if you're working, I don't know, 220 days a year. Mm-hmm. Average, and let's say even 10 hours.
Yep.
If you're working that's called like a normal job.
And also, I mean, it is the balance of, yeah, days overall in a year working 220 or whatever is not bad. But the fact is, for us, especially summertime, you're working 7 days a week, and then in the wintertime, you're working 2 days a week or whatever. If you were to add up all your hours and being on the phone, and maybe you're not shooting at all, but
I'm not even saying that anyone should or shouldn't do any of those things, because ultimately, like, it's up to you.
Sure.
It's up to you and the lifestyle you want.
Yep.
But I just wouldn't say, if you told me I'm working 220 days this year, is that too much? Is my work-life balance off? I'd be like, no, you just have a job.
Yeah. And I do think everyone is it's different. Everyone's not going to be able to work 50 weddings and edit 50 weddings in a year by themselves. That was my point. Some people can probably do more than that. I'm just ADD.
Well, no, my point is only like, when are you working too much? When you start to look at your volume and you go, if I worked 5 days a week, could I do it? And if you're like, I can't get it done.
Yep.
Even like, and I don't mean like there are seasons where you work more. Of course, there are seasons where you're going to work more. Like I'm just saying on average, if you work 5 days a week, can you get all the weddings done? Can you get it? I think that's a good place to start in your head. Be realistic about it. Like if you can get all the work done in 5 days, you can maybe take on more weddings. And I just want to release you to work more.
Yep.
Like if you feel like you can endure it, like don't listen to people who are like, you don't really want to do more than 30 weddings.
Yeah.
Or just, no.
That seems to be the magic number for a lot of people of just what they can bear in general or what they want to take.
It's totally up to you. But if you feel like you can get it out, I think I would say too much is when if you're having to work 12 hours a day for 6 days a week. Here's the deal. That's a good problem to have though, because you should have money.
Yep.
If you are working that much and you're efficient, you have money to hire help.
Yep.
So anyway.
Yeah. And also, I think with wedding video, a lot of people think there's only one model, the maker model where you're just like by yourself, you're shooting, you're editing, you're doing everything. Really.
Oh, I mean, how many people have you seen like that's an object of pride for them, right? They'll be like, well, I couldn't let anyone do my editing.
Yeah.
By the way, that's probably someone's perspective and that's how they feel, but it's not the only way.
Yeah. And so again, that is the point of this podcast specifically, is talking about, what works for you. Are you a person who likes to just work 7 days a week? At one point in my life, I was that. Like I liked it. Like I encouraged it. I was like, I want to crank out these weddings. I want to build this company. And I think we did start knowing that eventually we would want to have a team.
Definitely.
That maybe we didn't have like a 5-year plan.
No.
But
we definitely knew we didn't want,
because teaching was important.
Our names attached to every wedding.
Yeah. Teaching was important to us. Like we're mentors in people's lives, and that was something that we were like, we really want to encourage that in our business. A sense of mentorship. So I think we did start it out knowing that we wanted to be very team based, and a lot of people aren't that way. I'm excited. We're going to have Matt Celeste of Blue Flash down in Providence on probably our next podcast, where we'll talk about team building as an option to your business model. So if
a lot of people are interested. I've heard people say, if you want to retire, you got to build a team.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's entirely true, but that's kind of what we believe.
Yeah. And I know that I always want to do a million different things. So in order to do a million different things, you have to have good help along the way. And also just it helps with burnout. Like if you're doing the same thing every single year, working your butt off, and then, it's like one wave crashes, that was 2018. You have a little bit of a slow period, and then 2019, here's another wave crashing. That's how some people feel, I feel like, and they're just doing what they can to provide for their family. But it gets old, unless you're, and if you're like me at all, like, that you need something new. You need something to keep you fresh. And for some people, I think it's a creative aspect. For some people, it's just doing a different type of project completely and growing yourself as a human being in other ways. And for us, that's business. We're always trying to new stuff, and it makes it fun for us. So,
Yep.
they're all different business models.
You, as a creative, want to still be able to be creative. Like,
Yep.
and I think like I really support that. I seem cynical about creativity. I'm not at all. I'm cynical about people who have such non-creative ways of viewing creativity. Like if you're like the only creativity is getting a good shot, and I'm always like, all right, how many more types of push-ins can I do? How many more? Like every year you get a new piece of gear, and I'm like, they're like, I got this thing. It like helps you do motion.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, and it keeps your camera steady.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and they're like, it's called a gimbal when that was a big new thing. Oh,
Yeah.
gimbal. So we get gimbals. Gimbals are great. And I'm like, oh, I can do kind of like a slider shot on this.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's like a Steadicam. It's like, how many more things can I do, right?
Yeah.
With my camera. Like, given that's part of the fun of it is like, but I think being a creative is about so much more than just
Yep.
what do I do with the camera in my hand.
Yep.
And that's what we're talking about today is like, how do we be creative? And so I think what a lot of people would want to talk about and think about is, all right, so you know this about the market. How should people think about their own pricing?
Yeah, I think a lot of times people will think, oh, you don't want to do a $2,000 wedding film because how the heck are you going to pay for your Red camera if you're charging $2,000? So there's obviously different approaches that you'll have to take if you're only charging $2,000 compared to $10,000. A lot of it comes down to gear, how much you're spending on gear, how much time and effort I think you're giving to each client. And there's a certain client expectation that if they're only charging you $500, they're not going to expect a consult, or at least you should not be, in my opinion. I mean, we're not in that space right now, but I don't think a client should be expecting you to catch up on the phone multiple times. I would probably
Mini revisions.
I would probably book only through email. I probably wouldn't even catch up with people on the
If I
phone.
was doing a $1,500 wedding product, I'll just invent it right now on the fly.
Yeah, I think that's helpful actually.
I would shoot on quality gear that could withstand some wear and tear,
Yep.
but cheap. You know, I'd shoot on Sony's, or I'd probably shoot Panasonics or something like that. Good stuff.
How dare you say Sony's and Panasonics are cheap
Well,
cameras,
they're
Jason?
much cheaper than our Canons. I could buy. It's like 1.5. All right, so let's build this $1,500 product. So, because I think that'd be fun to do.
Yeah.
Because and this is like, I'm not teasing anybody. I you know, we could build a $20,000 product too, but I think you'd want to keep your price down to 10 grand a rig. I think you'd want to shoot for, you know, enough money to live on, you know. And by the way, I consider a rig to be a 3-year investment.
Yep.
So you can stretch that debt out for 3 years in your head. So it's really like it's 10 grand up front, but the cost of running your business is $3 grand a year in gear.
Yep.
$4 grand a year in gear. And so I'd be thinking like that, right? So $1,500, probably 2 Sony A7s, maybe a cheaper Sony.
There are a lot of those little DV cams now too. I mean, I haven't used them.
I think I would just get 3 Sony A7s. I don't
Yeah.
think that's insanely. I would spend 10 grand on my rig.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I would be fine with that. So I would do like a 3 cam thing.
Sure.
And I would really base it on doing recaps only. I would try to not bring an assistant. I would try to just be me, you know.
There's probably even a model where
You could probably not
could
even do a full
just do
cut.
ceremonies and toasts, and people would be thrilled with that.
You
We get
could-
asked to do that all the
You
time.
could probably even do a model where you did for $1,500 just a recap with 1 camera.
Yep.
You know, and you would produce a really good product. It'd be very focused, right? And so for you could focus on only shooting the things you wanted. I would probably limit it to 6 to 8 hours. I wouldn't really travel a ton, or if I did, I would charge people a bunch of money. I would maybe stretch my edits out
Yep.
in my contract 4 months, so there wouldn't be, and I wouldn't do any revisions, and I would do almost no phone calls.
Yep.
Because the point would be like, you don't have I don't think a bride who's paying $1,500 for a wedding, and I would try to shoot 40 to 50 weddings a year at least.
Okay.
Like, because that's enough to live off of.
Yep.
You can live off
$70K?
Yeah, $70K. You're making a good amount of money. You're not rich. And like, if you can shoot 50 weddings, you can raise your prices.
Yep.
Like, if you're shooting 50 weddings at $1,500, you could easily raise your prices to $2,000.
And when you're in that price point, they're not just requesting you, they're requesting the product. So you can get another shooter and you can double your income and output. Easily.
If you can figure out a product that people want and you can figure out how to produce it at a cheap cost and you're proud of it and you're happy with it, and then eventually you don't even have to shoot it.
Yep.
But it's like, I don't have that's a great product. I should make that. But like, so let's talk about, again, that's not what we chose to do. Our average price is more than double that. Right. And so that's not what we chose to do. Don't think I just love.
Those brides, like we said, there's 65% of the brides out there are probably looking for a product in that range. So there's a market. There's a market. As much as I think us videographers wish everyone was going to spend $10,000 on a wedding video.
What I think is funny is no videographers would spend $3,000 on a wedding video
themselves for their own wedding.
For their own wedding.
Yeah. Well, I can't afford that. So yeah, I think that I think that those brides too in that tier, you just got to know what your product is, know that, and feel comfortable saying no. Like, if they want you to deliver like a film from Brothers Martins, you're just gonna say I can't do that, for this price point. But this is my product. This is what we do, and you'll be happy with it because you're paying less.
A crane too.
Yep.
And I walk around and do some cool looking stuff.
Shoot, and you'll be happy with what you paid for. Like that. That's it. It's just matching what people paid for.
You a la carte that too. Oh, you want a full ceremony? Here's $500 more, and like.
Yep. I will say, I think we're even, like, you say we're like, upper echelon. I still think we could probably.
Spending wise.
If we could raise prices, There are people that would still pay, a higher price. We could raise prices by $1,000 if we wanted to, but we would take a hit. We would take a hit on the amount of weddings that we would do. And I would say we over deliver with what people are expecting. So, like, we put out a product that people go around and they look and they see what other people are doing. And they're like, okay, my price point is probably $4,500 for what I'm looking for. Oh, these people are charging $3,700.
Forgive the siren.
There's a lot of crime here in Milford. So we have a lot of, police in the area.
Yes.
No, there's
We're
really
literally
not.
just directly next door to the police station.
And also probably a donut shop.
And an ambulance.
Yeah.
And a hospital.
Yeah. We just have an ambulance.
We actually have
we actually
have a very safe office.
Yes. So yeah, I think it's finding the person you're trying to sell to, and knowing your product really well will allow you to sell more and more of it, and don't be afraid to say no.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is like be very firm and kind.
Yep.
But firm with your nose.
Yep.
And don't be thirsty. That's my biggest advice is like, if you are trying to figure out what your price is, don't act desperate and don't be thirsty. I love what we were able to do because we didn't give a crap when we started out. We couldn't give a flip. Like maybe because we were stupid and we didn't know better, but like
that was likely it.
I don't remember giving a crap how many bookings we had or anything.
Yeah. I did sales, so I did really care about how many we got. And I was like, I'm brutal. I'm just ruthless with trying to get people. So
Well, totally. But I just remember we didn't take it personally, though.
No. And still, I don't take it personally. It
wasn't like
even
we were
at our
like,
price point, I'm like, I can't do that for you. Like, if you want that, here are some people that you would be very happy with.
We never would negotiate with people and do all we never felt the need and the pressure. Like.
Yep.
There's a thing out in sales called the law of least interest. And I think this is important for your business. Whoever wants the other person's stuff least has the most power in negotiating. And so if
That's
they,
some Donald Trump stuff right there.
sure, if you want the wedding more than they want your product, you are screwed. You have to be like, meh. Even just putting out, like, not that I don't care about you, but like, oh, no, it's okay. Maybe we're not for you. Just letting people know, like, I'm not waiting for you to book.
Yeah.
I'll book somebody else.
And I'll say with that, when people do that, you know, if you're listening to this, you've definitely heard this. Like, just so you know, we're looking around at other people as well. Like, great. Sounds good. Awesome. You know, maybe they would be a better fit for you. Like, what are they offering? And then they tell you, and you're like, oh, yeah, we can't match that. I will tell you that 90% of the time, they still book with us. I'm like, I can't do that for you. You know, I just have to, you know, pay my team what they're worth, and just, you know, our prices are set. Like, I will, if I'm going to give a discount, it's in a market that I'm really trying to sell. And I know that I have less power than the person on the other side. And I'm like, look, I will give you a discount because I want to be down there.
But I'm getting what I want.
But I'm getting exactly what I want, is that I want a wedding in Florida. You know what? I gave them a discount because we need a wedding in Florida. Like, that's my biggest need. So you win, you get $1,000 discount, and I get a wedding in Florida, which was going to make me $100,000 in the next 2 years. So great. I'm happy with everything. Yeah.
Exactly. But like, you're not hungry for a wedding. You're hungry for 40 weddings.
True. Yeah, that's true. We thirsty.
Yeah, but like, you can't be like, you can't put a bride in a position. It's just uncomfortable, and it's also pathetic, and don't do it. Like, don't do it. Like, just be confident.
Yeah.
Like, if you're good and you know you're good, like, you don't need to debase yourself and lower yourself to constantly humiliate yourself. Like, you know, it doesn't mean I don't have a problem with offering sales or doing whatever you need to do, by the way.
Yeah.
But just don't feel like you like have no power in the negotiating table with people. Like, be willing to walk away
Completely.
from situations that
know where your lines are.
Yeah, that don't benefit you.
Yep. And honestly, for your own sanity, like, it doesn't bother me anymore. I think at one point it would bother me when people would ask for certain things. I'm like, can you believe the nerve of this person? Now I'm just like, you know what? I don't take it to the dinner table. Like, I go home and I'm completely happy, and I forget about those people because I'm just like, you know, I can't do anything for you. These are the rules. These are the laws in my brain. And I don't think about it anymore because, you know what? 90% chance they're going to come back anyways.
They don't know that they're one out of 600 people who asked.
Yeah.
And like, so, and by the way, I believe that people are valuable. I don't think you should talk down to people. Just because somebody has less money doesn't mean they're less valuable.
Oh, completely.
And so, like, but they don't necessarily know what other people are. They don't really know, oh, this is a ridiculous request.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, they just are being ridiculous, and but they don't know it. And so it's like, I think it's perfect.
I know going into a consultation, I know if the bride is like, oh, my husband wants to catch up with you, or my fiance wants to catch up with you. He's available. I'm always like, it's not that he's available. He's the tough money guy. So I know that going in, I'm super nice. I'm like, nah, man, there's not much I can do for you. You know, like, I just know that's a conversation.
Is there any way that we can?
Yeah. So what can we do on price? I'm like, what do you mean? What do you? It's on our website. So what do you mean? And well, you know, can you give me? Oh no. No, we can't give you a discount, but you can get a lesser package. You can always do that. Like, you know, it's just a funny thing. The guys are really tough.
But that's what it is like being respectful to people as humans, but also not giving away your own goals.
Yeah. Like, and I think it is uncomfortable because you want to be nice. And like, I'm a people pleaser, kind of. Probably become less of one.
You are not.
I think I am.
You like to make people happy. Like, you like to make them feel good.
I like to make people feel comfortable.
Yes, but you don't like to do things that you don't want to do.
Of course. Who wants to do things that they don't want to do?
A real people pleaser will put themselves at risk to make someone else happy. They will do all kinds of crap, horrible stuff.
Sure. I think I put myself in that situation.
A little bit, but
somewhat.
Mainly you're just really nice to people, but then you're going to walk away like, I'm not going to do that.
Anyways,
Which is great. Be that way, by the way.
yeah,
If you say no to someone, they should feel good about it.
yeah. I have walked away from plenty of weddings that I was like, I love that conversation. They're definitely not going to book us, but like, he's a really
They're
cool
nice.
guy.
They're really nice.
Anyways, I also just wanted to say to the people out there, maybe you're watching this, maybe you're listening to this podcast, and you are trying to figure out what your business is and you're feeling discouraged. Just know that there's a ton of people out there that are still trying to figure this out. We're one of them. Like I just talked a little bit about, our Florida market. We're trying to get down there and shoot more weddings. We just shot our first one after 4 months of marketing.
If you're a Florida shooter, you can hit us up. Let us know.
Yeah,
The
Although we do
tips-
have our guy down there, Josh.
The tips, let us know how to get. We're open to suggestions.
Yeah, and just know, like, we're all trying to figure this out. Nobody has it pinpointed, to a science.
No, it's so unique. Everybody, like, our journey is unique.
But I think that's part of the podcast too. Is a lot of times creatives, we tend to be alone in our little bubble. And just know that there's other people out there trying to figure this out. Hopefully this podcast can be a place where you can, vent emotionally, just clear some space to be like, I'm in a good boat with good people. And you're not lost. Keep on going and work hard and good things will come your way. So.
Yeah, we're always about like looking for the opportunity.
Yep.
How can you grow? How can we grow? How do we look on the bright side? How do we have a positive attitude and figure out, like, really, how do we solve our problems as business? How do we be creative in solving our problems? And like, obviously, we like to shoot. We don't talk a lot about shooting and doing those things, and we probably can do more, but we will. But we believe you're probably a good shooter.
Yep.
If you're listening to this, you're probably good. And if you're hearing this and going, they only talked about $1,500 weddings, I want to get into luxury. Like, I'm a luxury shooter. That's not for me. Well, you're a good shooter and you have a luxury market. You don't need to hear about it.
Yeah.
Like, if you're shooting 30 weddings a year at $5,000, then you're really successful.
Yeah.
But a lot of like people are starting out and like ultimately, like, at the beginning, it can be really, really discouraging when you think that everyone else is doing so great and you're doing so bad. And I guess, like, to end it out, let's talk a little bit about pricing and just how you feel about yourself. The kind of that ego, like that personal value thing that comes with you and your business and your pricing.
Me personally?
Well, just as businesses. I mean, like, I guess maybe us personally, but it seems like it's a big deal to a lot of people.
Sure.
And I understand why.
Sure. So when we first started Stop Go Love, I was full on creative, right? Like nothing else. I was a hopeless creative, you would probably say. Like no business acumen. And we both didn't have a lot of experience.
No, we were more just wanting to make stuff.
Yeah. And I think, art is a big deal. Art has to, for an artist is a huge part of their identity and our identity. Yeah. And so the thing that I learned in developing Stop Go Love is that there's more ways to find identity in what you do as opposed to just the art itself. The art is a fraction of what we do, but it's not everything that we do. And I think for a lot of creatives, they tend to put like 90% of their identity in I'm a photographer or I'm a videographer and
or
my art.
I'm this type of photographer.
Yeah, and also I'm very respected. And I think when I think respect is important to everybody. I think feeding my family was a bigger deal. Probably when it became a bigger deal was when I actually had to like put food on the table for the family and get out there and do it. So yeah, now it's a smaller part of the pie. I think it's still mixed in there somewhere, but I think we found a model that we really liked, and like in a lot of ways, what we do with weddings, it's a means to an end as far as creative goes. Like we're able to do a lot of weddings, so then I can take time and do a lot more personal work. The more weddings we get, the more personal work I'm able to take because the team is able to work on it, and we've built this we put a lot of work up front. So now we can, take more time to do the types of work and that work with the types of couples that we want to work with personally. So
I think the comparison game is killer for a lot of people.
completely. In every industry, by
in
the
every
way.
industry and in just life. And this is just real talk. This is just about being
Real talk.
a human. And like, if I could just give one bit of advice is like, don't use other people's businesses as the only way you measure yourself. Now you do measure, there's things you can learn. Oh, am I good? Like if someone's a great shooter and they're better than you should be able to acknowledge that.
Yep.
Right? If their prices are higher and they're selling more, that should mean something to you. So there's a lot you can learn about that. But I think just basically saying like, I'm going to set my prices here because if I set my prices lower, then I'm worse than this guy.
Yeah.
Or this guy in this workshop who doesn't give a flip about my business and is just running his own business. His workshop is his business. And whatever, it worked for him, told me I need to be charging here.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to be. And like,
Well, that's why it's important to set what your actual goals are.
and actually know your market.
Yep.
But like, if you shouldn't, you need to be like careful that you don't let comparison set your business goals more than the actual opportunities presented to you within your own skills, within your own market, within the finances of the people that could buy your wedding, and like really depersonalizing it a little bit. Where you're like, can step outside the business and just look at it objectively. And if you can't do that, which is hard for all of us, feel free to get a hold of us and we'd be glad to have a conversation.
I was going to mention that too. Jay and I are pretty available and we definitely like to talk to people about this kind of stuff. You did it just the other day, caught up with, a friend in the industry. And feel free to reach out. And I think
there's a lot of other great people too that can talk to you about your business and give you honest feedback.
Yep. Yep.
But at the same time, you're the one who is responsible for it.
Yep.
And you don't need to feel bad just because your pricing doesn't define you.
Yep.
Like if you're providing for your family and you're working, like you're in the few and far between in the world, which is people who get to shoot photos and videos for a living. That's a cool job.
Yep.
That's a cool job. Like if you were a kid and somebody told you like you're gonna make $80,000 a year shooting photo and video, you'd be like, that's awesome. And then you find out someone else makes 100 and suddenly it's bad.
Yeah.
It's like, don't do that. Like I would just encourage you. Like
that's the way humans are.
You don't need to feel that way. And like you can try to find something that you can build your value in besides your work and your money. And I think you're going to be a lot happier.
I agree. So, guys, check us out. If you're on YouTube, if you're watching this for the first time, give us a subscribe, give us a follow, click the bell.
We're on podcasts by Apple. Or Apple Podcasts?
Apple Podcasts.
And then we're also on Spotify, and we actually have Transistor as well. So
and follow us on Instagram too. We're going to be putting up some clips on there on a weekly basis as well. Lots of things going on. Guys, thank you so much for checking out the Wedding Pros podcast, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.